Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Lansing School District Board of Education meeting for August 6th. I will call us to order at 6 o'clock this evening. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much, everyone. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Dr. Beverly?
Present.
Dr. Bahati? Dr. Bahati?
Let's go straight to our national correspondent, Athena Jones. Athena, another alarm.
Dr. Burrows?
Present.
Of the coronavirus.
Ms. Hudgens?
Hi, well, that's exactly
Ms.
right.
Lawrence?
Present.
Coronavirus is.
Nino, you have to turn the TV down.
Lil J, she's on the phone. Mr. Lopez? Mr. Lopez? Dr. Rodriguez?
Present.
Dr. Rodriguez?
He's here. You know, we see you.
Mrs. Willis? Oh yeah, there she is. Okay, quorum is met.
Thank you very much. We do
Mrs.
have
Lawrence,
one. Yes.
Mrs. Lawrence, I got a message from Missy. She's on the phone with Lynette. She's having trouble entering.
Okay. Okay. We do have one public comment submission for this evening, and that is from Vontae Nixon. And I'm looking at our attendee list to see if that individual is with us this evening. I don't see that person in attendance.
Dr. Body says he's on, but is not allowing his video.
Okay.
Thank you.
Dr. Body, I've just promoted you to panelist. I hope that works. There he is.
Is also listed as a attendee.
I moved him over.
Thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome. And I'm looking again for Vontae Nixon, whom I don't see. Okay. If that individual joins us during the meeting, we'll go ahead and allow that public comment. Any additions to the agenda this evening? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to make just one adjustment to our agenda. We will be moving the report from superintendent to before the presentations. So we're going to hear from Mr. Sinacropi as soon as I stop talking. Any other additions to the agenda? Okay, Mr. Sinacropi, take it away.
Thank you, President Lawrence. First of all, I want to say happy birthday to Dr. Burrows. And I have a prepared statement I'm reading right now. So I am announcing tonight the cancellation of fall extracurricular activities, which includes sports, band, cheerleading, and until further notice. School-sponsored clubs and activities that can meet virtually will be allowed to do so. I know how disappointing the cancellation of sports and extracurricular activities may be for students, coaches, and parents, but the school district must make decisions moving forward that make safety our top priority. Unlike college and professional sports, where decisions are driven by money and other factors, our decisions about sports and extracurricular activities must be made with safety as our defining factor. We initially were optimistic about and had a timetable and protocols ready for the safe return to school, including sports and extracurricular activities. But at this moment, we made the tough decision to cancel until further notice for the safety of our students and staff. That concludes my report tonight, President Lawrence.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sinacropi. Hopefully we can begin to get our students back into the classrooms at their school with their teachers by the end of the first marking period, which is around the first week in November. At that time, we can reconsider sports and all other extracurricular activities after students return to school. Again, I want to reiterate, we know how disappointing this is. This is a really tough decision for the administration and for the board. We know how important athletics are, not only for, of course, physical well-being, but also mental health of students. But frankly, if we can ensure health and safety and physical safety of students and staff, then it's not appropriate for us to engage in athletics at this time. Mrs. Willis?
Thank you, Madam President. I have a couple questions, and please know that my questions are not in any way in criticism of the decision. They're just logistical questions because I understand the need to promote the safety of our kids. What sort of notice, if any, have we given to MHSAA, and what are we doing with sports that have already started tryouts and workouts and things like that? What's sort of happening with those plans?
I'll answer the second question first, because we have not had actual sports practices would not start until the 12th, which is next Wednesday, with football and volleyball and soccer not starting until the 17th. We've had conditioning drills that have gone on this summer several nights a week inside the stadiums using social distancing. MHSAA will be notified tomorrow. We'll be talking also with our conference, so the conference is aware of what we're doing. I would also add that this decision was made in conjunction with, I've met with the high school principals and the high school athletic directors, executive team, even had several students I've had discussions with. So, and I know no one said that, but it wasn't made in a vacuum. So we talked with lots of people.
And also that will be part of the vote that we take at the end, towards the end of our meeting. That decision will be encompassed in our approval of the administration's return to learn plans. Okay, everyone, moving on to presentations for this evening. I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Sinacropi and Dr. Chapman.
Thank you, President Lawrence, and along Dr. Chapman and most of the people you see on this screen right now, and plus many others, have had a hand in putting this plan together. Our plan is a requirement from executive orders in terms of how this is supposed to work. We need to have an approval of the plan, which looks at whatever phase we're in and determine what would happen during that phase. Once the approval of the board is gained, then this will be submitted to the Ingham Intermediate School District, who then reviews it and submits and moves the process along. I can't say enough, once again, about the people who did this, especially the leadership of Dr. Chapman, who has been in the forefront of kind of making sure these things get done. So I'm going to not talk much during this. Delsa will handle most of it, but we'll have questions at the end, and we both would be able to respond to those questions. Dr. Chapman.
Thank you, Superintendent Sinacropi. Good evening to our board and to our fellow executive team members and to the Lansing community at large. I will share my screen at this point. Okay. Thank you. Executive team members that I can see on the screen, can you give me a thumbs up to make sure that everything is projecting correctly? Okay, thank you. Once again, I would like to say good evening, and I am definitely humbled and honored to be presenting this plan before the Board of Education. This has definitely been a unified effort with several members of the Lansing School District, both operational and instructional divisions. We are well pleased with the time that we've spent together to create a very viable and feasible plan that will allow for the continuance of education for the students in the Lansing School District. This evening, we will provide to you the considerations, the assurances, the phase policies and procedures per our Executive Order number 142, along with our own Return to Learn roadmap for the Lansing School District as it relates to moving from screen to screen instruction and at some point fully back in the classroom with face-to-face instruction. Let's take a look at what we had to consider. When we think back to March 13th, that time of onset of an unprecedented situation, we know that COVID-19 began moving very swiftly, and we needed to be in accordance with the executive order and go into immediate school closure. It is at that time that we followed suit and followed the mandate to put in place the continuity of learning plan, which is very different from the preparedness plan that we're sharing with you on this evening. Considerations were looked upon as it relates very specifically to health and safety of all stakeholders involved in our learning process. We also had to consider the rate of spread within the region. At the time of the decision to go screen to screen on July 16th, we in this region were considered to be high risk for the Lansing area. And so it is for that cause that consideration led us to present, and we're thankful and appreciative of the adoption of a screen-to-screen instruction model. We also coupled that with the voices that gave response to our remote learning reflection survey, and many parents, through their experience in the spring during our complete closure, indicated that they would prefer online remote learning. As a part of the executive order, there are several assurances which are summarized in the following. We assure, based on the mandate of the Michigan Department of Education, that equitable instruction will be provided to all students, both in person and through alternative modes of learning, which at some point will be a blended learning model. We also assure that we will definitely be in compliance with federal and state laws and the associated agencies that require us to provide special services to our students as written or as regulated by offices such as the Office of Civil Rights, Special Education, and Rehabilitative Services. So when we think about the plan and what that calls for, on June 30th, Governor Gretchen Whitmer released the My Safe Start Plan school roadmap. And that particular plan is rolled out very specifically according to the phase and the rate of spread of the disease. It was determined on June 30th that phases 1 through 3 would be those phases wherein which remote learning would need to be put in place. Once again, considering where the Lansing region fell in those risk levels, it was determined that it would be a best fit for all stakeholders and very specifically students to be entering fall 2020 with 100% screen-to-screen instruction. So that's a part of the policy during those first 3 phases that we will follow. Additionally, we have put in place, and the board has a full copy of our comprehensive plan, which shares by grade level daily schedules that balance both synchronous, which is live instruction, along with asynchronous, which is independent or blended instruction, with virtual learning by trained and certified staff. Additionally, the policies and procedures that are embedded in the governor's order, we will ensure that implementation of CDC guidelines in all buildings and offices will definitely be in place. How did we prepare for initial implementation for those phases? Google Classroom training for not only staff, but for our parents and our students. On this Saturday, we will have the first of several series of learning sessions for parents on screen-to-screen instruction along with their students through our newly acclaimed Parent University. As promised, every student that is in need of a device along with connectivity will be informed and included in our district-wide technology distribution, which will convene at various sites beginning August the 13th and will run through August the 28th. Embedded in our comprehensive plan, we share several different learning options and tools for learning, and so that our students are well equipped for this very different learning experience. All students in the Lansing School District, in addition to receiving a technological device, will also receive a Learning Essentials Pack. That pack will include what we traditionally call back to school materials, but there will also be organizational materials involved for parents. A planner will be provided along with academic consumables, as well as project-based learning materials so that active hands-on learning can occur during our screen-to-screen instruction. And finally, we want to say thank you to our community partners who have stepped up and who are working with us to provide learning labs in a day camp setting for our working parents in the Lansing School District. Moving from phase 1, 2, and 3, and those are the phases where in the executive order, we are to be in remote learning. As we move out of those phases into phase 4, the policies and procedures that are to be followed per the My Safe Start plan includes or incorporates strongly recommended safety protocols and the essential actions of including mental and social well-being, along with instruction and operational methods that will be executed and adhered to according to the executive order. During phase 4, that is when we will begin to implement in a phased-in method limited in-person instruction, keeping in mind if and only if it's feasibly safe, and those methods will be according to researched learning options by the instructional team, and we will execute those by way of a hybrid blended learning model. And how do we prepare, or how are we prepared for moving into phase 4? We will ensure that all schools and offices are provided with personal protective equipment. We will train and continuously remind staff and students of social distancing and the overall access and movement procedures as embedded in the executive order. We will provide through both our instructional and our support staff social emotional health, not only for our staff and students, but for their families as well. We will continue with stakeholder forums to encourage both voice and reiterate the choice of being a member or a part of the Lansing School District and all of the viable learning options that we have to offer. Moving into phase 5 is where we all hope to be at some point. It is during phase 5 that policies and procedures will be put in place so that schools can fully open and be operable for face-to-face instruction, depending on the rate of spread and the associated risk factors that are identified at that time for the Lansing region. During phase 5, there will be minimal required safety protocols, including face coverings. Of course, we will continue with social distancing, and we will carry out the protocols and procedures for hygiene, testing, and cleaning as it relates to the individuals that will be participating in both teaching and learning in our schools. Preparedness for phase 5, once again, includes the provision of personal protective equipment for all stakeholders, very specifically our staff and our students. Social distancing and overall access and movement will continue just as it did within phase 4, as well as we will continue with social emotional health support in order to help our students and our staff to come back to what we would hope to be a sense of normalcy for us all. At this time, I would like to guide you through our own Lansing School District Reimagined interactive phases of the COVID-19 pandemic in terms of how we will move through it and how we will execute learning. If I can take you to the very top of the document where we see phase 1, 2, and 3, those are the phases in the darker shade of blue where we are mandated to be in remote learning. You will see that there is a note or an icon that says, as of today, and as we prepare for the reopening of school, we are here. 100% screen-to-screen instruction. Students will participate in live or synchronous, as well as independent or blended asynchronous learning 5 days a week based upon a grade level specific daily schedule. As we move to the right of our document, focusing on phase 4, it is at that point where we hope that there will be an improving state of the rate of spread for COVID-19. Going downward on the document, aligning the same color of the band for phase 4, you'll notice that's where we move into limited in-person instruction. And it is at that time that there are required safety protocols. And with those protocols, we will definitely have regulations and expectations of both staff and students where masks will be worn except for during mealtime for all staff and all students pre-K through 12. The only exception would be if there is a documented medical situation for either a staff member or a student where in which they would not be able to wear the mask. We also will ensure during that limited in-person instruction that there is signage and direction in our common areas reminding staff and students as well as any community partners that may be within our schools of the safety precautions as it relates to movement and access to areas in our buildings. As we move into phase 5, we note that that is where, based on medical research, medical fact, that we would hope that COVID-19 is beginning to become contained. In that containing phase, that is where we look to have full in-person instruction. Safety protocols will yet be in place rather than be very specifically regimented and required. They will be recommended. It is the stance of the Lansing School District. When we move into that phase, we definitely will be taking a close look at and assessing the recommended safety protocols, and we will assure that those are in place for the safety of our staff and our students. And finally, phase 6 is something that we all look forward to post-pandemic. It is at that time when in-person instruction, or what we call traditional learning, will fully return to what we knew it to be prior to the onset of COVID-19 and prior to our closure as of March 13th of this year. At this time, I would like to say thank you to our Return to Learn planning team. You can see that the list is long and it's headed up by Superintendent Sam Sinacropi. This team has worked tirelessly since the onset of the closure. We have worked many days and many nights to get to this point. It is because of this collective nature of working together that we have been able to put together a very viable plan that will be the best fit scenario for both our staff and our students. Training is ongoing. Conversation and collaboration has been innovative and unique, and every conversation has always had our students at the helm of the decisions that we have made. At this time, I will entertain any questions and commentary. And before I do, I would like to personally say thank you to Superintendent Sinacropi and to the entire Board of Education for entrusting the executive team, the instructional division, and the operational division for putting forth a plan that is viable, and I can't say enough, a best fit scenario for the safety of our staff and our students. Thank you.
I would add just a couple notes here, and that is that we're still in the planning stage, not planning stage is the wrong word, in the completing stages of our plan. We're working with some community partners. We are setting plans in place with our teachers and with our principals. The interesting thing with all this is that this has to be in, like I said, by August 15th. The mandate is. So we are showing you this right now, and we would welcome any comments or questions. Thank you.
Mrs. Willis?
Thank you. I have several questions, and thank you to the team that spent a lot of time putting this together and gathering feedback. And yeah, so just want to start out by saying thank you. So I guess I have a couple clarifying questions. So we're going remote learning August 31st, regardless of what phase of the pandemic outline we are for the state. And so I guess I just want some clarification. Those are two separate plans we're approving. We're approving the fall plan, which is the first marking period plan, and then we have this full 3-phase plan. And I guess what I may need is we might, if we could just have a formal, maybe 1 page of what's different, because they're slightly different, right? Like what we're saying we're doing August 31st through that first week of November is different than us saying we're going to respond to the phases as was presented in this presentation. So that's one. The second thing is I have some questions about our learning labs. I know we're still working out details about that with our partners, but I just have questions about like scope, process for prioritizing kids that would be eligible to be there, how we're going to deal with the latchkey end of that, school learning time, and what we're going to do there. And then I have some questions about the mask exception protocol. Just how would we track and process information if we do have folks that, because what I don't want to have happen is people maybe walking down the hall and say, well, I'm mask exempt because today I don't feel like wearing a mask. So those are 3 very big different questions, but if we could try to tackle those, I'd appreciate it.
Sure. Mrs. Sinacropi, would you like for me to respond?
Go ahead. I'll chime in as needed.
Okay, thank you so much. And thank you for your questions, Ms. Willis. Correct. What we are seeking approval and support for overall is for our screen-to-screen instruction. Coupled with that, the mandate from the Michigan Department of Education that we have 3 separate plans as we move through the phases. And so as we move out of screen-to-screen instruction into limited or partial or what has been called hybrid instruction, we here in the Lansing School District will be taking the first 4 weeks of the marking period to conclude our research that we've put forth in looking at several different models in that hybrid format. We want to be able to assess, once our students are fully acclimated to screen, what's going to be a best fit scenario both fiscally as well as from the learning side in terms of implementing a model that works. So to your question, we have not been mandated or designated with a particular type of limited in-person model. We are given the autonomy to seek that out and to do research, and that's why we are not specifically naming a final model at this time. As it relates to the mask protocol, we would look to review our health information forms that we collect each year for students. And we also would be taking a close look at our medical records for students and working with their families and their physicians to have documentation on file as to what their status is in terms of the requirement or the lacks thereof of wearing the mask. And so we're working through those protocols as a final component of implementation of our plan. The learning labs, we today, an executive team, we have started to address, Ms. Willis, how we will actually take application, who will possibly, or how we will consider enrollment, and how we will activate that with our community partners. Mr. Sergio Keck, who is not with us this evening, has done a phenomenal job in working with our community partners. And so right now, based on the work that Mr. Keck has completed thus far, we nearly have about 600 spaces that would be available for families across the district. And we are still working out the logistics of how do we inform our families on that opportunity and what will be the final process for enrollment into those programs.
Dr. Chapman, I would also add, in terms of what happens after screen to screen, we're going to be assessing as we go along. So we aren't going to, wait till October 30th and come up with. So we're going to be looking all along at what that looks like, and I think it's fair to say that you as the board would continue to be informed as progress we're making, not only in the screen-to-screen instruction, but in looking at what's next.
Thank you. So just 2 clarifying questions. The learning labs are something that we're looking at to potentially use in the next phase, not starting August 31st. Is that correct?
Dr. Chapman.
The learning labs, Ms. Willis, because that's when we will be fully remote, we have heard the cry or the ask from our families that they will need some assistance for, in terms of our working families. And so we are working fast and furious with our community partners to, as viable as possible, we look to have that in place on our day of opening on August 30th. Yes.
That's great. I wanted to just clarify that was in the works. So like, to be clear, we don't have it all worked out, but we're hoping to have spaces available that families will be able to enroll and utilize first day of school.
Yes.
And then my second question is, so we sort of released the screen to screen instruction model a couple weeks ago. We've had input sessions. What is going to be the input session or process for feedback for this LSD Reimagine? I know it's been on the website. I know you guys have had calls for input. Are we going to have any sort of formal listening sessions as a result of this presentation for the Reimagined school year portion? And I'm just asking because I know we're under a time crunch to get this off of our desk to ISD, understanding that there's holes in it that we're still going to spend the first, marking period continuing to address. But I just want to know, for family's sake, where can their sort of feedback opportunities come in?
Sure. As we move, Ms. Willis, as we move through those first couple of weeks of our screen to screen, which is the first couple of weeks of first marking period, we will continue to have those community stakeholder forums and present what we have researched and look at the pros and cons for the different models and share what our recommendations would be based on the needs of what we know will be a best fit for our students and our families. The schedules that the Board of Education reviewed in the actual plan that we've proposed this evening, those schedules were created not by the instructional division or the executive team. Those schedules had all input from our principals and their teaching staffs. And I believe also there was involvement from our support staff, some of our assistants. So we've already started that collaboration for the screen to screen portion of the learning. And that is the same way we will continue as we need to move into the limited person instruction model.
Okay, thank you. And final plug, and I will turn the floor over to one of my colleagues. The teaching staff that are also just needing to prepare. I know they had a lot of input, but they're just now seeing the plan. As much as you guys can, provide opportunities for the staff to have their questions and concerns addressed as well. Because I know it's a point of stress for everybody, what this is going to look like and how they're going to adapt and how they're going to be best prepared to teach their children and their students in this environment. So just a plug for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Beverly.
Thank you, Madam President. My question is regarding technology distribution and how we are ensuring that all families have been connected with. Just last night on the district's own Facebook post, I saw several folks talk about they haven't heard anything from their school or from the district. There were several calls that they've even called the school or called the district and haven't heard back. And so I'm just wondering how we're going to ensure that we've connected with all of our families regarding technology needs.
Sure. It's a very viable question, Dr. Beverly. We have been reaching out to families in various ways so that we can connect them with our parent/student inventory. It's through that inventory, once that is completed, they will actually be registered in the system for the issuing of a device. Just within a matter of, just to put context to numbers, within a 24-hour period after several robocalls, principals making personal phone calls, we actually had a surge of response of nearly 1,000. And as of earlier this week, we still needed to make contact with about 4,000 of our families, and that is being chipped away at each day. For some of our families that have not been able to update information with us, that is part of the setback. However, we are wholeheartedly and earnestly reaching out to individuals at this point so that we can make sure prior to our day of distribution that we have everyone on record so that we can issue a device to them. And so it is our hope that they are able to go to our COVID-19 at lansingschools.net website. We also are encouraging our school staff to make sure that they are immediately responsible to reach out from our parents. But I will say that as of this morning, we have had over 1,000 parents to respond with the correct information so that they can now be moved forward and included in that inventory for technology distribution.
Thank you. And definitely thanks to you and the team for this plan. I know that there's a lot of heavy lifting, and there's a lot of heavy lifting in an environment where there's far more unknowns than there are knowns. My next question is, can you tell us how our collective bargaining partners participated in the planning process?
Sure, through our HR director, Susie Corbin, she has definitely done reach out and worked collaboratively to make sure that our bargaining units were aware of the different instructional components and tools that we were considering. And I do know that there has been, through meetings that are being held at the school level, along with meetings executed through our Director of Elementary Education and our Director of Secondary Education, the information has been shared with union leadership so that they too can share it with their members and are aware of those opportunities of collaboration so that they can have both voice and choice in terms of how we plan to move forward with our not only our screen-to-screen instruction, but for moving into the hybrid model and then eventually into face-to-face offerings.
Dr. Beverly, let me add too that I've only done it twice, but we've set up every 2 week, a 2 week schedule where I meet with the association presidents or each in a Zoom meeting. And we met last Tuesday. So we talked a little bit about this, but we talked about budget in the past, lots of different things, but we're going to continue that on a regular basis now for my time.
Thank you. We committed to, I'm not done talking, Dr. Harry, just give me a second. We committed to making sure that our partners were a part of the collaborative process. And so I'm encouraged to hear that they have been at the table throughout. My next question is, I see that there is listed Google Classroom training for staff, parents, and students. Could you touch on what those opportunities will look like? I've seen a draft document that, it wasn't a draft, I've seen a document that outlined when those training opportunities were available, but could you just touch on those one more time for our listeners and our viewers?
Sure, Dr. Beverly. So as far as staff, there is a plethora of training that is occurring. The Lansing School District, in partnership with our Ingham Intermediate School District, and then on our own internally, we have developed the Lansing School District Professional Learning Roadmap. And it's through those series of offerings, Dr. Beverly, where staff have an opportunity to complete those trainings in a self-paced scenario. Those trainings are recorded so that groups of staff members, if they want to convene and to execute learning as a team. And the second part, or phase 2 of our internal learning roadmap, will start on this coming Monday. And that training, when we say staff, Dr. Beverly, it's not only limited to our classroom teachers, but that training is also available to our support staff, which includes our LEA assistants. In terms of Google Classroom training for our staff and our students, that will definitely be running through our parent university. Our very first session is on this Saturday, August the 8th at 10 a.m. We will have follow-up sessions on next Tuesday, August 11th, and then the week following on August the 18th. The times and the links for registering for those are noted on our website. And that initiative comes through our STAR grant, a federal grant on school transformation. Ms. Black, if you're on with us, would you like to give any additional explanation or sharing regarding Parent University and how we are providing both training and support for Google Classroom to both our parents and our students?
Thank you, Dr. Chapman. I think you did a very well job explaining. So basically we have our very first 3 sessions scheduled for the dates that you indicated, in which we will be providing an overview of Parent University as well as Google Classroom, and also Parent View, and how parents can access Parent View to record absences or receive that teachers have put in weekly. We have 4 facilitators, of which 2 are teachers and 2 are on the administrative level. Actually, 1 is a principal and 1 is a SLIC. And so that is pretty much it. We're looking very forward to this Parent University that we launched last week. And so again, our first 3 sessions are around the LSD Reimagined Google Classroom initiative. And so I think that pretty much wraps it up.
Thank you, Ms. Black.
Thank you. I know we've touched on device distribution. Can you maybe touch on internet access support?
Sure. Thank you. There have been several meetings this week, Dr. Beverly, with ISPs, internet service providers, as well as connectivity companies, including T-Mobile and AT&T. And we are very fortunate. We've been presented with some very viable plans and options that we will be able to offer to our families. Ms. Benavides, our Executive Director for Improvement and Innovation, along with our Director of Technology, Mr. Jeff Vanderlaan, have been involved in those conversations, which were led by Superintendent Sinacropi. Ms. Benavides, can you quickly give us an overview of how we are supporting our families with internet connectivity?
Certainly. During the continuity of learning plan, we know that there's multiple partnerships just within the city of Lansing through Comcast, AT&T, and they offer free and low cost options for our families. So that'll be some information that we will be giving out in addition to the device distribution. So that will be the first part. And then, excuse me, sorry. The device distribution, they will receive the list. If those are not viable options for our families to be able to connect in that way, we have developed a partnership with T-Mobile for hotspots. And we have ordered the number of hotspots based on the inventory that we've been collecting from parents. And then of course we've added a couple hundred extra on top of that just to make sure that we're set and ready to go. We know that our partnership with T-Mobile, they will also be able to overnight the hotspots to us. So if for some reason we need some extra, they will be here very, very quickly. We're very happy with the partnership with them and the way that they will be able to help us manage the hotspots as well. So we really feel like we've got a comprehensive plan, and we will have our families covered.
Thank you, Ms. Benavides.
Thank you. I think I'm done with questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you, Dr. Beverly.
Hello.
Doc, I'll put you on my list. Mr. Lopez, you're up.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. The one question I have at this point is, we're talking about parents and parent training and all that stuff. What about those parents, and we will have them, we're not going to be able to be at home with their children to ensure that they're, learning. Have our partners stepped up to the bat to help us, find some ways of bringing children somewhere when the parents are not able to be there with them? Have you looked at that situation? And is there anything that's in the works? Can you tell us something about that?
Yes, Mr. Lopez. Those are when we referenced earlier that as of today, we have about 600 spots available through our learning labs that will be put in place with community partners such as the YMCA, all of our local community centers, and several other partners such as the Boys and Girls Club. So we have right now identified a means to start with being able to have about 600 spots available across the district where students will be able to come and learn. And so rather than refer to it as daycare, because it will not be daycare, we will be implementing learning labs where the students will be able to come into a safe, nurturing environment, execute their screen-to-screen instruction. They will be provided a meal, and they will be in the care of professionals while parents execute personal matters, which very specifically should be associated with employment.
And is that service free of charge to the parents, or is there going to be some sort of arrangement with any of the organizations that we're working with?
As we shared earlier, those are part of the logistics, Mr. Lopez, that we are finalizing. Many of the community partners are currently licensed through the state of Michigan, and as such, they are able to receive financial fee or payment through DHHS. And so some of the slots are already would be reserved for those students and those families. Others that would require payment, that's where we are in negotiations with the community partners. And so those are the final logistics that we are working out. We, as a district, we wholeheartedly want as many students as possible to be able to participate in our learning labs. And so right now we're working through the fiscal matters associated with that.
Thank you. Madam Chair, at the appropriate time, I'd like to request a moment of silence for those who are Lansing, district family who have passed. I don't know, it's a teacher that were made aware by Ms. Luigi, and I know there have been maybe one or two others that have, they're not here with us anymore. So at the appropriate time, Madam Chair, if you would, appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Lopez. Ms. Logie.
I just want to echo all this great, hard, fast work you've been doing. Dr. Chapman, Sam, the entire executive team, and everybody on the list that you credited. I just think it's incredible. It's like an impossible situation, and you all are just working your way through it and not looking back. Thank you again for that. Just wearing my parent experience hat, we in our house touches from the district and from our kids' specific school about the technology inventory. So I just want you to know that for many families, that is some parents I hear who feel like they can't get a response. Correct phone number, I'm sure that you're all well aware of these barriers, but it feels like once you're in the system, it works really, really well. So thank you for that system, and just want you to know that we received more than enough information from our from our school, and then also from the district. And I'm not complaining. I really appreciate it, because sometimes I need to hear it 3 times before it sinks in there. The information about the parent university, could that come through the school as well? I'm just wanting, I know people are going to be really interested. And I hadn't heard about that through those channels that I heard about the technology inventory through. So I was just hopeful that maybe that same system could be engaged there. And I have a fear. I don't know if you can help me with my fear, but I'm afraid 600 spots is going to be enough. I just know that many families haven't thought to let you know that that's what they need yet. And I just think we might have a much bigger need on our hands that is based on nothing scientific. It's just what makes sense to me. So anyway, thank you for listening. I just wanted to share that.
Thank you.
Hello.
Dr. Rodriguez, you are after Ms. Hodgen. Ms. Hodgen, you're up.
Need to unmute.
Ms. Hodgen, you're muted.
There you go.
I am unmuted?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Sam, for your conversations every morning, because you give so much information to parents that are dying for information. And believe it or not, the kids too. Some kids don't want to be home anymore. They want to be in school. And I was surprised that you know, but of course, we don't have the answers. But I want to congratulate Dr. Chapman, you, Sam, for the fantastic job that you guys are doing, because it's amazing how well Lansing parents are taking it. Yes, there are some complaints, but when I go out, whether it's to the supermarket or whatever, more parents realize how hard you guys are working and how much we're trying. So don't give up. And all I want to know is the kids complain that they all not have technology at home. How can we provide that, Sam? Are we going to contact companies or what? How are we going to, or do you think?
Sorry.
No.
Were you
Or
done?
do you think? Yeah, I am done.
Okay. We have a device distribution plan, and in the slide, I believe the dates are the 13th through the 20th of August. And we are going to be distributing them from the Don Johnson Fieldhouse. So there'll be specific times that schools will be coming in, and as part of the inventory that the parent inventory, student inventory that we've taken, we're able to determine what the needs are. As Dr. Chapman had said earlier, grades K through 2 will be, pre-K through 2 will be iPads, grades 3 will be Chromebooks. Students, and there was about 1,700 in some that had them from the spring, will continue on with those Chromebooks that they have right now, so they wouldn't need to grab another one. We've got orders, large number on order that hopefully will be here soon. And our technology department is working very hard to get things imaged and getting things taken care of and filtered the way they should be. So I'm pretty confident that we did pretty well in the spring getting things out. I'm confident and comfortable right now too.
Mhm. Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much. You guys are doing a terrific job.
Thank you, Ms. Hodgen.
Dr. Rodriguez?
Thank you very much. And you know, this creating a plan is not easy, but I think that we had to congratulate you, and I go with all the voices in the board for that. I am glad that you are preparing the service providers, but we are in different times, and I would like to know if the same way we have a team, they go to the houses for attendance to the first 2 or 3 weeks of the year. Are we going to have a team for special occasions, for anything that you need? I mean, we had to have readiness for the parents, for the community, for anything that happen at any time. Then spend some money. The board has to spend some money for that kind of thing. We should have a team for emergencies, other things that we want to achieve right away when the parents have a complaint or a call or whatever they need. Then that is one of the things that I think we need to, because I need the teachers need the support to do what they are going to be doing. As much support as possible to give to them. The second is when a third grader math teacher is teaching the same curriculum that the other third grader, can they do it together and do team teaching and then helping each other and how to do the technology and all that?
Dr. Chapman, go ahead.
Sure. So Dr. Rodriguez, I would like to respond to your first question as it relates to providing support and having teams of personnel actually going out into the community. Yes, through our Office of School Culture with our student support specialists, as well as through our public safety, we will be doing wellness checks. We will be executing activities that incorporate positivity towards social emotional learning and healthy mental situations. So we will be working very closely with Ms. Black and her staff to execute that. As it relates to team teaching, yes, I know that at several of our elementary level schools where teachers in those grade levels are used to working together, they will be able to, through the online, through the Google, it's called Google Meet, students from different classes, teachers from different classes will be able to execute either through the live instruction or when they have what they call classroom chats, they will be able to interact and do team teaching together, yes.
Thank you. I think that is a good way to support each other. I am concerned about the kindergarten students because it's a different kind of learning. And also I'm concerned about, I'm going to say, Big Man Center. These two, how we can help in that so different situations and how we can help them.
Yes, coincidentally, we actually talked about the kindergarten experience today during executive team. There are several school districts across the nation that have already started virtually. So we have been literally studying what their online instruction looks like. There are so many educators across the nation that are sharing what is working for them. And so we started talking this morning, Dr. Rodriguez, about some of our identifying, I should say, some of our very engaging kindergarten staff members across the district so that they can support others as well as be very supportive to our new kindergartners and their families. We are putting together some scenarios that we can share so that our kindergartners and their families will be well equipped on that first day of school. As it relates to Beekman Center, we've been working very closely with Harmony Castillo, our Director of Special Education, along with Dr. Diaz, and Mr. Rob Ellis, the principal there, so that we can support the staff, the students, and the family. So we're putting together some very specific protocols that relate to that support. Dr. Diaz, is there anything else that you feel that we would want to share in regards to how we're moving forward with supporting Beekman families?
Thank you, Dr. Chapman. The special education team under Harmony Costello has been working very hard to look at what kinds of services just can't be provided screen to screen, and are currently investigating some opportunities to provide certain therapies in a face-to-face environment. Protocols that have to be followed, cleaning procedures that have to be followed to make sure that we keep all of our students and staff safe. But that team is working to individualize for every one of our students with IEPs. We know that we're not going to meet every need in a screen-to-screen mode at this time, but they are working very hard to develop plans to be able to support in every way possible the students and the needs that they have to be successful learning.
Finally, thank you very much. I think that the answers are perfect. The same way we had every day, the principal tell us at the beginning of the year how many students were in attendance in the building. Are we going to develop a kind of simple evaluation in how we are doing day by day or week by week? That way the board will know, okay, today so 90% of the families, students were present, so many teachers were present. Any kind of evaluation, the simple. I don't talking about big one or no, something that we can improve right away.
Let me I'll say one thing and then you can finish out, Dr. Chapman. You had mentioned in your earlier question, Dr. Rodriguez, that we have people go out and check on attendance and where people were at. Well, we are going to activate that team that we've had in the past, because as we get down the last week or two in August, we want to, if we have not heard from families, we will pull out to check and see if they're okay, first of all, and what we can do to help them enroll. Go ahead, Dr. Chapman.
Thank you, Superintendent Sinacropi. So we, through our online management system, Dr. Rodriguez, through our Synergy system, we are able to track the students and their attendance, and we'll be able to do that with our screen to screen. We will be able to re-pull ports on a daily basis. Actually did or did not check in or come online, and that will go directly through our Synergy system our teachers have access to. At the end of each day, through our technology department, led by Ms. Benavides, we will be pulling, just like we would do if we were face-to-face, we will be pulling attendance through our Synergy system, and that will let us know on each day the percentage of students that were on screen to screen and who was not. And so we would then be able to, within a very quick turnaround time, reach out to those families to, first of all, to do a wellness check, but also to encourage the student and the family to make sure that the student is logging on daily.
Finally, I know that all the teachers want to be in the classroom all the time. I know that. But sometimes, for one reason or another, they had to stay home. And it was difficult to deal with SAPs before. How we are going to deal with SAPs with this kind of situation? How we are going to help the principal in dealing with 2 or 3 people who are absent, and see how nobody suffer.
Yes. So we are addressing that through our cadre of guest teachers, Dr. Rodriguez, that we had last year. But due to some reconfiguration of staffing, there are several staff that would have needed to have been reassigned, that we will be offering additional support to all of our schools. So those staff members will be deployed to those schools and will serve in the capacity of an additional support as it relates to substitute teaching. That is definitely a moving target and a concern for us right now, but we're working very closely between our instructional division and our HR department to make sure that we have a very viable list of individuals that would be available to provide those substitute teaching scenarios.
Thank you, Madam President. I think the success of the students and their families is the success of the administration and also the board. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Rodriguez. Dr. Burrows, take it away.
Thanks. First of all, I now have many fewer questions because Dr. Rodriguez asked 3 of them, so that makes it handy. We're sharing the same brain this evening.
Next time you go first.
Jumping onto the issue of attendance, would it be appropriate to get, not necessarily, we don't need detailed data, but some kind of attendance and student engagement update at board meetings the first month or so that students are back in session? So, because it's something that I know we really care about, and it would sort of hold all of our feet to the fire. And if we have to make any mid-course corrections, we'd be in a position to do that, just so we sort of know where we're at.
That's a great suggestion, and we certainly can do that. In fact, we probably will, as we go forward, instead of doing a did you know, we'll probably be doing did you know updates, so we could update what's happening, and attendance will be part of that.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. The next question I have, and I don't know what the right answer is here, I just wanted to see what you guys are thinking about. Assessments, particularly formative assessments. We're all very concerned about students falling behind and the amount of what we have. We're going to have had a very exaggerated summer learning loss. And without some kind of assessment system in place, it's going to be a real challenge to identify that in any systematic way and design strategies for coping with it. So do we have a strategy for that? Do we have thoughts?
You're muted, Dr. Chapman.
Muted.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
That definitely was a concern for us immediately back in March, even when we went into the continuity of learning plan. We kept our ear to the ground and worked very closely with the Michigan Department of Education, who has given us guidance on how to make sure that we are assessing and supporting our students. Ms. Benavides, who heads up our assessment component of the district. Jessica, can you share with us the guidance and direction, or directive, I should say, that has come from the Michigan Department of Education?
Certainly. So we will continue with our local assessments. We will be continuing with Ames Web. For kindergarten and first, we did decide to move NWA to second and third this year. And so we will be doing NWA from second until 12th grade. We did that for a couple of reasons. So we're really excited about this because it gives us really great data right away, but it also partners with Newsella, which is one of the online software or platforms that we're going to be using. And what that platform will do is NWA will talk to their map growth score, will talk to Newsella, and then it will be able to change the reading level of any of the articles that we push out or content that we push out through Newsella right in that child's right at reading level. So that's one way that we're going to be using some of our local assessments. The MDE has asked for a waiver for several of the more standardized tests, and we're just now waiting back to find out how that's going to pan out for the spring especially. We are requiring with all of our live instruction or our synchronous instruction that all of those lessons end with some type of exit ticket. So that's something that will happen on a daily basis for every single one of our lessons. So again, that's another way that we are hoping to close the achievement gap. Also with our Marzano eye observation system, we are focusing our elements this year, and one of the main elements we will be focusing on is planning to close the achievement gap. And so formative assessment will be a key role in that, especially because, as you know, with the blended learning, meaning synchronous and asynchronous, we have to know where our kids are at all times. And so we're really going to be using those exit tickets to really help us to hone in on really great instruction during that live time.
And obviously that leads us pretty quickly back to questions of access. So if you're not getting exit tickets and attendance, that gives you a very good indication of who may have access problems that haven't been in touch with you yet. So that you can sort of integrate that whole process. Okay, I think that's all the questions that I have. If I think of any more, I'll just email them later.
Okay.
Dr. Beverly?
Yes, thank you. My question is about pre-K and kindergarten enrollment, and where pre-K and kindergarten enrollment, where we are and where we anticipate we might be come August 31st.
That's an excellent question. Go ahead.
I'll start.
Yes.
I guess I would say this: we are not where we want to be. Let's put it.
Right.
We've got some work to do, and part of what Dr. Rodriguez had asked us earlier is going to be of what we're going to be doing contacts with parents and doing contacts of the kids that if we can't get a hold of the parents, and actually going out to houses and where we're at, especially of our students of our GSP programs from last year for kindergarten for this year. But Dr. Chapman, go ahead and close it out.
Sure. So we're working very closely, Dr. Beverly, with our communications department, our interim director, John McGraw. We have a marketing and recruitment campaign that is geared very specifically towards our pre-K families and our incoming kindergartners. So we are personalizing that rather than just do blanket or general marketing. We are utilizing students who completed pre-K3 and would be entering our kindergarten programs. We're doing personal reach outs to them in hopes of being able to rein them in and go ahead and get them registered for kindergarten in the next couple of weeks.
We feel like it's likely that many, especially pre-K parents, are assuming that instruction for them is also going to be remote, and so thinking about just keeping them home in the fall.
That would be a viable thought. And so what we're trying to promote through our communication is that our pre-K program is definitely an educational opportunity through our high scope curriculum. So we'll be embedding those tenets of what our program will offer. And we also will support parents in understanding and in knowing that the distribution of the device, even for our pre-K students, is going to be supported. And so the campaign or the marketing component for that is very structured and intentional to answer those questions or thoughts that those parents may be having.
And then on the other side of the coin, what supports are we providing juniors and seniors as they're thinking about next steps in their educational journey, considering post-secondary options? How are we supporting them?
Sure. Sure. As a member of, as a board member of the CAPCAN, I'm working very closely with Michelle Strauss and our CAPCAN advisors. So CAPCAN actually has been working with our juniors and seniors, Dr. Beverly, over the summer. And I did find out yesterday in our quarterly board meeting that Lansing School District juniors and seniors had the highest participation. So that connection has not been lost. And we are already working with, especially those incoming seniors, working with them in terms of looking at post-secondary opportunities, putting in a plug very early for applying for scholarships, as well as the FAFSA process. So through our CAPCAN partnership, we have been able to still stay very connected with our juniors and seniors.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mrs. Willis.
Thank you, Madam President. I have a couple more questions. The first one related to attendance, and I think there were some great questions raised by my colleagues, especially Dr. Burrows. But as we look at tracking attendance and seat time, do we have an understanding yet from MDE how we're going to be able to account for attendance as it relates to our student allocation?
Dr. Chapman or Mrs. Benavides?
Yes, yes, we do have that, Ms. Willis. We have been in direct contact with Michigan Department of Education, Christina Tokar, our district registrar. With all of our protocols in place very specifically for the counting of students based on our 100% virtual model. Ms. Benavides, can you quickly go through for us what actually will count as being present for our students?
Certainly. So on a daily basis, we're going to be using a couple means to count our students. Count in the way of counting statewide for virtual just means two-way contact with our families one time a week. So that's how they're counting attendance. However, for daily attendance, we need to have a contact with students and back from students each day. So the way that we're doing that, again, is through exit tickets. That's one way we can count attendance. So as they are completing their exit ticket, then we are having that two-way conversation with students. Another way that we're counting our students is just like how we're in the board meeting tonight. So I literally know who's in attendance just by their faces, right? Another really great extension that we have on our Google Classroom or Google Meet, which we're actually very excited about, is when students log into Google Meet right after the live session, the teacher will get a report along with central administration, and it will tell us exactly how long each student has been online, when they logged in and when they logged off. So that's really wonderful for us to see, so students just don't log in for 2 minutes and log off, and we know exactly how much time they were online. Now, granted, that doesn't affect how we count attendance, but it's just good data for us to have for engagement, right? During count week, it does change a little bit. So we need to make sure, again, we have that two-way communication back from the student to the teacher and the teacher to the student. And for high school, that would include for each period of time. And that can be either through, messaging through email, it can be an assignment. So there's lots of different ways that we can count that attendance. So we have a lot more flexibility as it is for count. Now, if a student is not counted on count day, and let's say they're in high school, then we monitor them for 4 weeks to make sure that we have that two-way, again, for that 4-week time period. So we need to make sure all of our students are counted on count day, and we already are coming up with some plans to make sure that that will happen. But the daily attendance is also going to be monitored through Synergy, because again, we are really concerned about engagement, right? We want to make sure our kids are there every single day, whether it's synchronous or asynchronous. So we already have a plan in place for Synergy reports that will automatically be pushed out to teachers and to principals so they can monitor that attendance on a daily, weekly, and so forth basis. So I hope that answered the question. I just wanted to give you as much information as possible because we do want to count our students, but I think you're also asking questions about how we're going to monitor engagement as well.
Right, and specifically addressing how we're able to capture that attendance and what the state will count for captured attendance. That's
sure.
So that's helpful. My second question is meal distribution. Can we talk a little bit about our plans for distributing meals start of school?
Sure, I'll take a shot at starting this and then turn it over to either Mr. Lang or Dr. Chapman. I've had several meetings with Sodexo Magic, and that we're in the process now. They are in the process of putting a plan together of where those distribution sites will be. We are looking at also working with Dean Transportation in terms of some things that may have to be delivered. And as we've talked about earlier, we're still in the process of what this is going to actually look like, but it'll look something like it was in the spring in terms of there'll be schools and there'll be community centers and churches and housing developments where things will be delivered. Dr. Chapman or Mr. Lang, jump in if there's anything we need to add.
Sure. We will continue to work with Sodexo Magic and Dean Transportation. We have preliminarily identified the sites that will be involved in the distribution. We also are looking at our assistants that work with our food service program to be a part of that distribution process. And so there's a very meticulous system being put in place in which we will be able to deliver meals directly to hub locations so that students are fed both breakfast and lunch in a very timely manner. Mr. Lang, is there anything you would like to add?
I think the two of you summarized it pretty good.
Thank you. And my final question doesn't necessarily have to be addressed tonight, but I just wanted to raise this as an area of concern because I did not see it in our phased back to school plan, the reimagined plan, relates to what we do cleaning wise or quarantine wise after someone's been to school and has tested positive. So in the cleaning section, we talk about our intervals for cleaning. We talk about identifying positive people. We talk about if someone's at school and, how the nurses are going to be prepared for all that stuff. But now someone's been in school and they've been exposed, has been in school and they've been positive. So now what do we do? What's the shutdown protocol at that point? So we could just have that addressed. That would be
We can, thank you, Mrs. Willis. I think one of the things that we should do is that we'll bring in some representatives from Sodexo because we have been working with them on what that protocol looks like. So at a later board meeting, we'll bring that in for a discussion topic so you can get some more information directly from them.
Thank you. And certainly in addition to the actual providers that'll be doing the cleaning, I'd love to have information on, making sure that the health department, this is following health department guidelines and all those sort of things as part of the process. Thank you.
Okay.
Ms. Hodgen? Ms. Hodgen, you're muted.
Unmute. Since not everything has to be bad news or very serious, I want to remind you that Dr. Robert Mason's drive-through surprise 80th birthday party on Friday, August 7. That's today. We missed it? It's at Trinity Church on Holmes, so that everybody who doesn't know Dr. Mason, it was a surprise party to...
Ms. Hodgen, I'm going to ask you to hold this comment until the end of the meeting when we have time for board members to make comments that are related to other topics.
That's no problem. That's no problem.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions related to preparedness plans? Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you again to the executive team and the administration. I know this has been heavy lifting. We are going to move on to routine matters and old business, committee reports, facilities committee, Dr. Beverly.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Facilities Committee met, 20, excuse me. Can you come back to me just a second? Can you come back to me, please?
Okay, moving on to personnel committee, Mrs. Willis.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to point out to the attention of the board that we have a lot of replacement approvals for the boards in front of the board today. I do appreciate having that category, letting us know if these are newer replacement positions that we're filling. And then just calling out one of our resignations. As the board knows that our executive secretary and the secretary to Mr. Sampson Crope, Nancy Zamiria's last day was last week. Although I did see her photobomb a little bit, I see she's helping Lynette today get us through our first meeting. So we appreciate you coming back this week to get us through. But I just wanted to welcome Lynette Hester as the superintendent's executive assistant, as well as the assistant to the board. And with that, I don't have any other I don't have any other information unless the board has any other questions.
Do we have a sense of whether these are brand new teachers or are these people from other districts that are being brought on their teachers? Do we have that kind of information?
I would ask Ms. Corbin to respond, please. I'm sorry, I was a little slow there.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Burrows. It's a mix. We recruit for both. We just try to make sure that we get the best teacher for our students. So sometimes we get them brand new and sometimes we get them from outside of other districts.
Thank you.
Dr. Beverly, are you ready?
I am. I apologize. I pulled up the wrong report. Facilities Committee met July 30th. Several items were discussed, including conference room, audio visual equipment, recommendation at Wainwright for $38,146.07. This award will be split between 3 different vendors. We also reviewed a draft of the bond in motion community update, updating everyone on the status of construction projects, specifically in lieu of the delays resulting from the pandemic. Further, we discussed a property swap proposal related to the water drainage at Eastern, looking at cost savings plan related to efficiency in that drainage, seeking a way forward that benefits all property stakeholders in that area. The dialogue continues. Additionally, we heard a subsequent legal opinion regarding our asbestos claim at Eastern Fields, and we are moving forward with our action against the insurance company. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Beverly. I know we're going to be discussing that legal opinion during our closed session this evening as well. Moving on to our consent agenda for this evening. May I have a motion?
Madam President.
Dr. Beverly.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Dr. Beverly, supported by Dr. Rodriguez. Thank you, guys. Any discussion? Okay, so our consent agenda this evening consists of approval of July 16th regular meeting minutes and July 23rd special meeting minutes, the receipt and approval of the personnel report, bid recommendation for Wainwright audio and visual equipment, and that is it. Any further questions or discussion? Okay, will the clerk please call the roll?
Dr. Beverly?
Yes.
Yes.
Dr. Burrows?
Yes.
Ms. Hodgen?
I saw her say yes.
Mrs. Lawrence?
Yes.
Mrs. I'm sorry, Lil G?
G. Yeah. Yes.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Mr. Lopez?
Yes.
Dr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
And Mrs. Willis?
Yes.
Yeses have it.
Thank you very much. Moving on to new business for this evening, we have a recommendation to renew file waive MDM, sorry. And I'm looking at Mrs. Benavides and Mr. Jeff Vanderland. Go ahead.
Thank you, board. I'm going to turn this actually over to Mr. Van der Laan to talk to you a little bit about FileWave. It's a device management system and kind of how we'll be using it, especially coming into the LSD Reimagined as well.
Good evening, everyone. Many of you may remember that I was before you, I don't know, maybe 6 to 9 months ago for the same product. FileWave is an application for device management. It allows the district to manage, control, update, and push software out to all our devices, iPads, laptops, desktops. It also allows us to monitor Chromebooks, but we don't have quite the same control. We have another tool for that. The software is a valuable tool for us in technology on an everyday basis, but it is a key piece of software as we look at remote learning and devices going home with students. And it'll play a key role in supporting those students, our teachers, our staff, as part of the LSD Reimagined plan. There's a lot more key details in the recommendation. I don't want to belabor that, but I'll be happy to answer any questions about the application.
Any questions? Okay. Really? No. Okay, no questions. Thanks, Jeff. Okay, next up we have a closed session. May I have a motion?
So move.
Madam Chair.
It's been moved by Mr. Lopez, supported by Dr. Beverly, that the Board of Education recess into closed session to discuss personnel matters and a legal opinion as is permitted in the Open Meetings Act. Any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Dr. Beverly?
Yes.
Dr. Bahati?
Yes.
Dr. Burrows?
Yes.
Ms. Hodgins? Ms. Lawrence?
Yes.
Ms. Lil J?
Yes.
Mr. Lopez?
Yes.
Dr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mrs. Willis?
Yes.
Quorum is met.
Thank you very much. Okay, to my board colleagues, reminder, you're going to leave this meeting, go into the other one, and then we'll come back to this one when our closed session is over.
Is the other link in our email?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Thank you.
Godspeed. I, for some reason, can't allow Dr. Body back in as a panelist. Sam, can you? Well, I'm the host now.
Is he waiting right now?
Now I can. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So we're waiting for 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, he's there. Miss Hodgen and
And
Lynette is working.
Missy, we're waiting for Missy.
Oh, Missy needs to get in.
I think Missy's in as an attendee. Yep, I'm gonna let Missy in.
Okay, you got it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm gonna let Amy in.
Okay.
All right, we're back in open session now. Next on our agenda are our action items for this evening. First up is the executive team contracts and organizational chart for school year 21.
Madam President,
Mrs. Willis.
I move that the Board of Education approve the superintendent's executive team contracts and receive the organizational chart for school year 21 as presented.
Support.
It's been moved by Mrs. Willis, supported by Dr. Burrows. Any questions or discussion? Okay.
Just a comment.
Yes, ma'am.
Just like that, yeah.
Sorry. Just to comment, a big thanks and appreciation to the executive team and all of your hard work. And I know we teased you all last time that your boss didn't get his homework done, so we weren't able to approve him last time, but we are really appreciative of the work that you guys are all doing. And I have a feeling that's somewhere where Dr. Beverly was going to go. So let me turn it
It was indeed, you covered it. Just want to echo your sentiments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Also, I want to indicate that the teamwork is an executive team, but they are working as a team to present a comprehensive plan for the Lansing School District together in one vision, and I think that is the most important part. As a team, we present all together with the board what we want for this district. Thank you very much.
Okay. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Dr. Beverly,
Yes.
Dr. Bahati,
Yes.
Dr. Burrows,
Yes.
Ms. Hodgen, Mrs. Lawrence,
Yes.
Ms. Lahaiji, I'm sorry.
Okay, Lil G, yes.
Lil G, okay. Mr. Lopez?
Yes.
Okay. Dr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
And Mrs. Willis?
Yes.
Quorum is present.
Thank you very much. Next up is the Lansing School District COVID-19 Preparedness Plan. May I have a motion?
Madam President,
Mrs. Lilji.
I move that the Board of Education approve the Lansing School District Preparedness Plan 2020 through 2021 for submission to the Ingham Intermediate School District.
Second.
It's been moved by Mrs. Lilji, supported by Mr. Lopez. Any discussion?
Madam President,
Yes, ma'am.
can I just ask if the Board of Education wants to combine approvals for approval of the screen-to-screen instruction for the fall, as well as the plan for not having sports, if that needs to all be approved as well?
Mr. Sinacropi has indicated to me that that's all encompassed within this motion.
Okay.
If
I would prefer that it's somehow delineated or explained as far as the record for the motion.
Mrs. Lawrence?
Go ahead.
We certainly, I mean, it is encompassed, but I think if the board can obviously use that as a motion too, it can be a separate motion or it can be a combined motion because it's all part of the preparedness plan.
we could amend the motion just with an include statement, including the decision on sports. So if it needs to be clear that that's in the decision.
That would be my recommendation for records purposes. If you look back at archives of this record, if you only see the approval of this motion, it wouldn't be clear what it all included.
So amend the motion to include the preparedness plan, which includes the cancellation of fall sports and the Lansing School District Reimagined screen-to-screen plan for the first 9 weeks.
Yes.
That's good.
Would it also need to include sports and the other activities?
Sports and extracurriculars.
Yeah.
So including the cancellation of fall sports and extracurricular activities that cannot be held virtually.
Can I propose a friendly amendment that rather than which includes, just make it the gerund including, because that makes you know that everything we've just listed aren't the only things that are in there.
Okay.
Include but not limited to.
We're getting our money's worth out of Dr. Burrows tonight with that word. I don't even know that word. Gerund.
Did you make a motion, Ms. Lil G?
I did. That sounds great.
Okay, well, I'll second.
Including.
Okay, it's been moved by Mrs. Lilgy, supported by Mr. Lopez. Further discussion?
I do have one comment.
Dr. Beverly.
I would hope that we would continue to work with MHSAA and other organizations around extracurricular activities to find alternate opportunities for our students in other seasons, if not in the fall.
Thank you, Dr. Beverly. Dr. Burrows.
I just want to make a brief statement. This is very strong work. I like it very much. I hope everyone recognizes it's very much a work in progress. It's going to change moving forward. We're learning while doing, so please be patient with us. But I think this is an outstanding start and could serve as a model for other districts.
Mr. Lopez.
Back in the day was on-the-job training.
Okay, will the clerk please call the roll?
Dr. Beverly?
Yes.
Dr. Bahati?
Yes.
Dr. Burrows?
Yes.
Ms. Hodgen? I still don't see her. Mrs. Lawrence?
Yes.
Ms. Lilgy?
Yes.
Mr. Lopez?
Yes.
Dr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mrs. Willis?
Yes.
Yeses have it.
Okay, thank you. Moving on this evening to report from Secretary and announcements. Dr. Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam President. The board will meet again Thursday, August 13, 2020, information study session at 6 p.m. Virtual meeting, or you can be present. If you desire to be there, you have to tell the president of the board. Thursday, August 20th, regular board meeting at 6 p.m., virtual meeting via Zoom. Wednesday, August 12th, for the whole community. Wednesday, August 12th, public coronavirus testing from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern High School. On Wednesday, August 19th, public coronavirus testing from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. Garner International Magnet School. I also want to let the board, I signed last week the resolution that we passed, and unfortunately the resolution has no title, but I think it was so important that we have the picture of the signature with the superintendent. Also, I asking to send to you the resolution and different kind of paper, and I hope that you receive it, and also a copy of the pen for everybody, that they can have a copy of this pen for the rest of your life, and you can show to generations to come. Then I think that's an important resolution. I like to put a title to the resolution sometime, because that's just the beginning of the whole thing. Thank you to everybody.
Thank you, Dr. Rodriguez. Mr. Lopez, did you have a comment?
Just to remind you about my request earlier.
Yes, thank you. That was next on my list.
Okay.
On that note, thank you, Mr. Lopez, for reminding me. We've had, it seems like every time we meet, we've got some more Lansing School District family members to remember. And tonight we are remembering Harold Fernando, who was a teacher at Post Oak, who was tragically lost to us last week in a drowning accident. So please join me in a moment of silence for Mr. Fernando. Thank you very much. Further, we also recently lost Stephen Jackson, who was an Everett graduate, a dancer, a choreographer, who was making his home in Atlanta, Georgia, and was in Lansing to visit friends and family, and was a victim of violence this week. Please join me in a moment of silence for Mr. Stephen Jackson. Thank you very much, everyone. I have one more comment to make before we adjourn this evening. Already, after the superintendent announced his athletics decision at the beginning of the meeting, I've already seen some internet comments start to allege that the Lansing School District doesn't care about the students. And frankly, I won't entertain such an insulting statement. As of today, more than 157,000 Americans have died of coronavirus. I understand that we want to return to pre-COVID life. I do too. But this board is not willing to gamble with the life of even one of our students or staff members. To take any less action is to be, at best, careless, and at worst, criminally negligent. To people who are saying that the district doesn't care about the students because we've canceled athletics, I would ask that your outrage at least equal the level of outrage you felt when we canceled school. Because quite frankly, I think all of us would agree that our decision to engage in remote learning in the fall was met with wide support. And it is staggering to me that the same people who are supporting remote learning are not supporting the cancellation of athletics. Think about what you're saying. School is more important than sports. And if kids can't go to school, kids can't play sports. That's the bottom line. This is how we're keeping our community safe. I appreciate the work of this executive team and the superintendent. I know how difficult these decisions are. I know how difficult this is for students and families. Please remember that we are doing this because we love every member of the Lansing School District family and we want to keep you safe. With that, I'll open it up to any further comments from board members. Dr. Beverly.
Thank you. Piggybacking on Dr. Rodriguez's comments around the resolution from our last meeting, I received lots of positive feedback from community members, thanking us for being courageous and for placing, excuse me, an emphasis on a priority on the measures that are outlined in that resolution. I also know that there's likely to be some continuing pushback on some of the decisions that have been made. Please know that none of these decisions were made lightly. All of these decisions, excuse me, all of these decisions were made with the best interest of our school community in mind and in our hearts. Thinking about keeping students, educators, and families safe is a priority for all of us, as well as providing quality educational opportunities. We are doing our best. I think that each of us who are on the screen at the moment have been reached out to over the last few weeks by colleagues from other districts, thanking us for stepping out and on a limb and being the first to move to online instruction in the fall. I think similarly, other districts will follow suit as it relates to fall sports. I remain hopeful that we can find some solutions for student athletes using the springtime as an opportunity to pick up with some of these sports. But recognize that there is a strong plan in place here. That plan is supported by data, it's supported by stakeholder input, it's supported by everyone here having the best interest of our students and educators in mind. So thanks to everyone who participated in this plan and those who are continuing to provide a support moving forward.
Thank you, Dr. Beverly.
Hello.
Dr. Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam President. Nobody, I think every one of us, all our friends, all our parents, our community wants the best for our students. At this time, according to the circumstances that our community is living, this board has made the best decision that we can make at this time. If the things change, as we provide in our circumstances that they change, that all of us together take care of the virus and this virus disappear, no question that we will be very happy to come back and start all over again and giving new opportunities to our students. But at this time, the best move is the move that this board took tonight. It's not easy, but take courage and take leadership, and I appreciate every one of the members and the executive committee for the direction we are going, and I hope that that will save everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rodriguez. Any further comments from board members? Okay, thank you, everyone. At 8:41, we are adjourned.